if, and I don't know what I would call this, bracket, I'll call it bracket x. If bracket x denotes the least integer greater than or equal to x, and bracket x is equal to 0, which of the following statements must be true? So let's interpret what this is saying. So the least integer greater. So they're saying we are always rounding up here to the nearest integer. In other words, normally if I was to give you a number such as 2.1, and I would say round to the nearest integer, you would say 2, because you would round down here to get to the nearest integer. But here they're saying we are always rounding up to the nearest integer. So in this case, rounding to the nearest integer, 2.1 would always get rounded to 3, even though it's farther away. They're telling us that you're always rounding up here. And so if bracket x is equal to 0, which of the following statements must be true? And then it looks like they're basically asking us for the range of what x could be. So what values are always going to get rounded up to 0? So if I have something like 0.1, positive 0.1, that doesn't get rounded down to 0. Remember, that would get rounded up to 1. So I know the greatest value x can have is 0. So based on that, it looks like these guys can all be eliminated. And so then I got to think about all of my values between 0 and -1. So it looks like the difference here sort of comes down to a can x be equal to 0, and x can be equal to 0 because it says denotes least integer greater than or equal to x. So if x is equal to 0, bracket x would also be 0. So based on that, you actually know it's e, because this one doesn't have the greater than or equal to sign here. Let's look at these differences, though, just for the sake of thoroughness. So here that says x can be x has to be greater than or equal to -1. So can x be equal, though, to -1? No, because -1 isn't integer, so it wouldn't be rounded up to 0. Bracket x, or bracket -1, I should say, in that case, would just be equal to -1. So that's not true. E.